You just got off an insurance sales call. They loved you. They laughed at your jokes. They asked you somewhat smart questions for a prospect, and then you said the premium and radio silence. Let me think about it. You already lost. You just don't know when. Comment right now if you've ever had someone say, let me think about it, and you knew you were toast. I'll tell you about mine here in a second. Because here's the thing. Here's what actually happened. Somewhere in the first 5 minutes, more than likely earlier, you handed them permission to shop you. You thought you were building rapport. You thought you were being genuinely helpful. But you were actually teaching them that you're just another option on their list. The sale doesn't die when they hear the price. It dies the moment they start comparing you to someone else. And most agents never see it coming because they think objection handling is about what you say at the end. It's not. It's about what you never let them believe in the first place. And here's the part that'll keep you up at night. If you have to drag them in, you got to drag them around and drag them out. Meaning, if you don't change their beliefs before they buy, you've got a pissed off customer who's a ticking time bomb. If you're new to the channel, I am Mason VanMeter, owner of PreSoldOut.com, where we have solved the most important problem for insurance agents such as yourself, which is lead generation. And we get you people to talk to every day. So the work you skip at the front end becomes the hell you pay for on the back end. I want you to picture this. Someone clicks on your ad, they fill out your form, they book a call, they show up, and you've already lost them, not because of the price, not even because of objections. You lost them 3 days ago when they clicked, and you just don't know it yet. This is the thing that's going to make you want to punch a wall once you see it. And most agents think the sale starts when you get on the phone or sit down at the kitchen table with them. Wrong. We got some nice consolation prizes for you in the back. The sale started the second they saw your headline. And if what they expected when they click doesn't match what you're about to sell them, you're cooked. I learned this the hard way. I was running ads for mortgage protection, good ads. People were opting in like crazy. I'd get on the phone, I was feeling great, and I'd say, hey, so you just opted in, you wanted to learn more about mortgage protection, so let me explain a little bit about this works. It's a life insurance policy that pays off the house if something happens to you, and they cut me off. You know what they said? I don't want a life insurance policy. I asked for the mortgage protection policy to pay off my house. They thought those two were two different things. In their head, life insurance was expensive, complicated, something their parents had. Mortgage protection was this magic product that just handled the house. The sale was lost right there. Not because they didn't need it, not because they couldn't afford it, but because it was no longer congruent, the same thing with what they came in for. The frame they walked in with and the frame I was trying to sell from were two completely different universes. So what you get in the front is what you get in the back. So if they click thinking they're getting A and you show up selling B, doesn't matter how good B is. The misalignment is the poison. You can't overcome it with logic. You can't overcome it with benefits. You already lost the sale before you opened your mouth. And here's the thing though. Most agents, we just think the fix is better objection handling or a tighter pitch, a better script. It's not. You can't sell someone something they think already failed them once. I'm not talking about overcoming objections either. I'm talking about the ghost of girlfriend, of a bad experience sitting in the room with you, just broke your heart. Maybe they bought life insurance 10 years ago and the agent ghosted them, disappeared, took their money. Maybe they tried final expense and got burned in the commission structure. Maybe their upline told them whole life was a scam and now they believe it in their bones. You walk in with the best product in the world and it doesn't matter. They've already decided, not about you, about the thing you're selling. And here's what most agents do. They argue, and they try to correct. They pull out some fancy charts and comparisons and logic, and none of it works because you're fighting a feeling, not a fact. Logic doesn't win here. You have to go deeper. You have to peel back the layers. You have to help them unlearn the bad impression they're carrying around. How they feel about the product is more important than the product itself. You're not selling features, you're selling the permission to believe again. So here's what you do. You don't challenge their belief. You validate it first. You know what? I've heard that story before, and a lot of people feel that way because they got screwed by someone who didn't know what the hell they were doing. And now they trust you because you didn't defend the thing that hurt them. Then you reframe. You say, what if I told you the problem wasn't the product? It was the person who sold it to you. Now you've separated the bad experience from the solution, and you've cracked that door open, you've pried yourself in. Then you give them a new story, a better one. You tell them about a client who bought the same thing and what changed for them. You make the new belief feel real before you ever ask them to buy. You're not convincing them. So let me give you an analogy to sum this up. A guy takes his truck to a bad mechanic. The mechanic, he then misdiagnoses the problem. Says, you know what? It's this. And he replaces the wrong part, charges him too much. 2 days later, the truck breaks down again. So the guy says, well, cars don't work. That sounds ridiculous. Cars work, engines work, transportation works. Works for me at least. Works for everyone else I know. He just trusted the wrong mechanic, get the wrong diagnosis, had the wrong repair done. That's what it comes down to. You're replacing the old belief with something that serves them better, from disempowering to empowering. Okay? Leave them better than you found them. And once that belief shifts, the sale's already done. If they don't buy, they're lying to themselves. They're just waiting for you to make the offer. But here's the tactical piece most agents miss. When someone's talking to you, listen to the exact words they use. If they say things like, I see what you mean, or show me how that works, or that looks good, they're visual. If they say, that sounds right, or I hear you, or tell me more, they're auditory. If they say, I feel this could work, finally, or something doesn't sit right here, they're kinesthetic. Those aren't just throwaway phrases. They're telling you how their brain processes information. This is called a primary representational system. And when you know which one they default to based on their predicates, see, hear, feel, you adjust everything. For a visual person, you paint the picture. For you say, imagine what it looks like when your family's taken care of. For an auditory person, you say, listen, here's what people are telling me after they get this in place. For a kinesthetic person, you say, how does it feel knowing you finally got this handled? Never have to worry about it again. Same product, same outcome, different language. In the second you match their modality, they stop resisting because now you're speaking their language. They don't even know why it suddenly feels right. It just does. Now, that's not manipulation. That's meeting people where they actually are instead of where you wish they were. Okay? But none of that matters if you don't know how to get them talking in the first place. I realized I could ask the same question on every single sales call. Same question every time. And it worked. Here's the question. God forbid you died yesterday. What does life look like for your family today? What do they have to do to make ends meet? The first time I asked it and it actually worked, I watched this guy's face change. Not like he was thinking about an answer. He was somewhere else. He went inside. He went quiet for a second, longer than felt comfortable. Most agents would rush in, fill the gap. Here's what, like, my wife would have to sell the house. We just moved in 2 years ago. She'd have to move back in with her parents. My daughter's in a good school district right now, and his voice cracked a little bit on the last part. I didn't say anything. I just let him sit in it because I knew the sale was over. Not because I closed him, because he closed himself. He wasn't imagining some abstract future problem. He was sitting in it, a vivid scenario. He was seeing his daughter pack up her room. He was seeing his wife crying in an empty house that wasn't theirs anymore while she's getting harassed by debt collectors on the phone, thinking about having to remarry. I didn't have to sell him anything. He was already bought in. He just needed me to show him how to fix it. And that's it. That's the question. When you ask it, something shifts. They stop thinking about premiums and coverage amounts and all the bullshit that doesn't matter, like which fucking carrier you're going with. They start imagining their kid not being able to go to college, their spouse losing the house, their family scrambling to cover funeral costs while they're still grieving. You're not selling insurance anymore. You're making them feel the weight of needing it and not having it. Here's what happens next. When I get them to imagine their family having a vivid problem that can only be solved by me and my product, they have to give me money or else they are lying to themselves. That's the fork in the road. They either buy or they look you in the eye and tell themselves it's fine, that nothing bad will happen, they'll get to it later. Most people can't do that. Not when they've just pictured their wife crying at the kitchen table, trying to figure out how to pay the mortgage. And if they can do that, they're not a good man in my eyes. Not when they've imagined their kid asking why they can't go to their friend's birthday party anymore, or why they have to quit the soccer team. This question forces them to live in the consequence. And once they've lived there, even for 10 seconds, pain cuts twice as deep when you know the opposite pleasure. The sale's already over. They just don't know it yet. Here's the thing. If you ask that question while you're desperate, while you need the sale to close, it won't work. They'll hear that desperation and hunger in your voice, and then they'll shut down. Before you even pick up the phone, there's something you have to fix first. You know what the weirdest part about desperation is? It doesn't show up in your voice. It shows up in your silence. It's the pauses that you feel too fast. It's the objection you preemptively counter before they even say it. Or do you need to know about a 30-day look-back period? It's the price you discount before they ask. If you think you're hiding it. Like, they feel it in their chest before you finish the second sentence. I had a call where I caught myself doing this in real time. Lady's on the phone, final expense lead, and she goes quiet after I explain the coverage. Just quiet, maybe 3 seconds, and I jumped in. And I said, now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a lot, and I projected it onto her. So, of course, naturally, she agrees. It is a lot, but let me show you how actually affordable it is. And she cut me off. She said, I wasn't thinking that. I was just thinking about my son, and I felt it in my stomach. I wasn't responding to her. I was responding to my own fear that she was about to tell me no and reject me. I filled the pause because I couldn't stand to let her think. I countered an objection she didn't have because I needed her to say yes more than I needed to help her. That's when I realized I wasn't faking confidence. I was faking calm. And she could feel the difference. Desperation doesn't sound nervous. It sounds like you're in a rush to get to the close. You're in a rush to pull their pants off. Like, before they can think too hard. It sounds like you don't trust your own product enough to let them sit with it. Take it out for a week by themselves. Here's another one that made me want to throw my phone through a wall and punch an old woman. I got on the price too soon on the call. I made too many assumptions and didn't ask enough questions and rushed to get a sale. Like, that would make anyone want to beat up their granny. It's like almost like the movie Friday. It's like barbecue so good, make you want to slap your mama. That's how I felt right there. I spent so much more time overcoming objections than I even needed to had I just done it right from the beginning. I was trying to speed up the process and ended up dragging it out twice as long because I skipped the foundation. That's desperation. It's not loud. It's impatient. It's trying to force the outcome before you've earned the right to ask for it. The shift happened when I stopped trying to win. I had to realize prospects don't give a single fuck about Mason VanMeter. They only care about themselves, and rightfully so. The only way for me to fulfill my best interest was to help the customer fulfill their best interest and make their best interest my best interest. I just had to make myself unimportant in the sale and focus truly on telling the customer whatever it is they needed to hear by asking the right questions. And here's where it gets really interesting. Once I stopped being a desperate little bitch, I started picking up on things I never noticed before. I'd be on a call and I just know what to say. I just know which direction to go, what policy we're going to put them in. All right, we got a special guest who decided to walk in all the cords and shut everything off at the same time. So we're going to pick up where we left off. Like I said, it's not because I'm running these techniques in my head. It's because I wasn't thinking about it at all anymore. I'd hear someone say, I'd see what you mean. And without thinking, I'd shift them into painting a picture of what their life looks like with his handle. Or they'd say, isn't that right, Montana? And I'd immediately pivot to asking them what feels off, what would need to feel good about this. I wasn't choosing the technique anymore. I was just listening to their predicates, the exact words they used, and my brain would automatically match their language. Visual person, talk about what it looks like. Auditory, what it sounds like. Kinesthetic, how it feels. I stopped consciously running plays and started just knowing which move to make in real time. And that's what happens when you stop being desperate and start being present. Isn't that right, dude? Tell him how. He's like, let me down, Dad. Do you mean snacks? Instead of, like, imagine just being present instead of actually saying, here, let's go get down, buddy. Good boy. All right, let's put this back on. So you hear, when you're present, you actually hear what they're saying instead of just waiting for your turn to pitch. You want to show up detached? get your money right first. Have enough in the bank that this one deal doesn't determine whether you eat this week or starve and have to eat ramen. Like, whoever needs the other person least has the most leverage. But more than that, believe in what you're selling so deeply that you'd rather them say no than buy something that doesn't serve them. Like, that's real detachment. That's when your voice changes. That's when you stop filling the silence. But even when you get that right, most agents still lose the deal. Why? Because they're solving the entirely wrong problem. I had a guy tell me, Mason, I can't afford coverage. Can't afford coverage. Classic objection, right? So I asked him, what do you mean by that? And I asked again and again. For 5-10 minutes, I just kept peeling that one sentence apart like it was an onion. What do you mean you can't afford it? How do you know? How do you know it's true? What does afford mean to you? Just out of curiosity, if you could afford it, what would change? And every time he gave me an answer, I just asked another version of the same question. You don't want to sound repetitive, but you do need to know. Most agents would have taken, I can't afford it at face value, moved on to the next call, or dropped price to make a sale. But I decided to stay curious, not pushy, not trying to overcome an objection. Just genuinely understand how he defines those words, what they mean to him. And here's what came out. It wasn't about money at all. If you can, guess what it was in the comments. He wanted the coverage. He could afford the coverage. But in order to say yes, he had to cross this mental barrier where he had to admit out loud that he had let his family down by not having this protection for the last couple of years. That is what I can't afford it actually meant to him. It meant, Mason, I'm so ashamed that I didn't do this sooner. The real objection was hiding under the fake one. And if I had taken his first answer as the truth, I would have walked away thinking he was broke when he was really just scared to admit he'd failed. And that's the game. Surface objections are never the real one. They're just shields and foils people put up to protect themselves to be politically correct, but from whatever truth they're not ready to admit out loud. They're called negative admissions. And once you understand that, you stop trying to convince people and you start trying to help them feel safe enough to trust you to tell you what's actually fucking going on. But here's the thing. Everything we talked about only everything we've talked about only works if you actually believe what you're selling. You're not selling insurance. You're selling the belief that getting insured is the right move right now. And the only reason they ever said no is because no one ever broke it down in a way they understood it. You're becoming the person who controls the environment before the pitch even starts. Here's what I want you to do this week. The specific tactical thing that changed everything for me, the week after I had that realization about making myself unimportant, I stopped saying, let me show you. And I started asking, what matters most to you about this? I stopped pitching. I stopped presenting. I just asked better questions and then shut up. One call, that's it. Just try it on one call this week. Ask them what matters most. What happens if we don't fix this? And then let them talk for as long as they need to. Don't fill the silence. Don't stare them back to the pitch. Just listen like their answer is the only thing that matters, because it is. In the next video breakdown, I'm going to tell you exactly what to say when someone tells you they need to think about it, because that objection isn't fucking real either. Drop a comment. What's the weirdest objection you've ever got that made you realize the real issue was something else?